Today in the locker room.
I think it doesn't matter what discipline you come from if you've got the right mindset. You've got to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and know that you're doing the right thing. Having a good team means everything. Most people do it. They don't think they do it.
Do you think we've become too demanding as people, as consumers?
It's a really good question.
Welcome to the Locker Room, brought to you by the Tech Locker, the company that looks to protect your technology investment. If you're new to the Locker Room, hit subscribe, hit like, follow everything that's gone before to stay up to date. John Surtees, motorcycle and car champion. Manny Pacquiao, many others, multi-weight champions. That crossover is rare. Relatively speaking, that's quite rare. You don't often get people who kind of make that shift, or at least make it successfully. You serial entrepreneurs, more of a kind of investment level, cash to put towards projects, but the kind of employ teams to then kind of make that a success, right? When you're the person carrying that accountability, when you're big boss sat in that chair or taking the punches in the ring, if you like to go back to that analogy, when you're that person carrying that accountability, that's a certain level of mindset. That takes that takes experience, that takes all manner of skill set, and that's what I'm looking to explore today. And today's guest is going to talk to us and give us a level of insight across that big seat, that chief exec seat, across a number of different areas today. So please welcome to the Locker Room, Mr. Matt Murphy. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Neil. No, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me on. Tell me a bit about myself. I'll tell you a bit about myself. I'm originally from Liverpool. I now live in the middle of the country in Stratford. I'm married with 2 kids that keep me super busy and hectic. I Redmore Health, which works mostly in the primary care space in the UK, sort of technology services company. Prior to that, I worked in the games industry for 6 years. So, and then before that, I was in healthcare technology. So I know you'll come to this, but I did swap around a few industries in my time, and we'll go into that in a bit more detail. What am I? I am, I'm a passionate leader. I love what I do. I love developing people. I love developing teams. But my favourite team of all is my football team, which is Liverpool Football Club. So yeah, and I love learning more than anything. So I was delighted to be invited to join you, Neil, and to see what I can pick out of the conversation, as well as hopefully share a few things that I've learned along the way.
Well, I mean, it was all going so well. I'm going to reach for the hard questions now. You've declared which side of the party you're on.
Yeah.
This is going to be tasty. As an Evertonian, this could not be a better setup, could it? Really? So.
Oh, perfect, perfect. Yeah. Sorry about that, mate. Yeah, sorry to bring that up so early.
It's all good. It's all good. Did you always kind of know, or I guess from what point in your career did you kind of think that's me, top seat, big boss? That's where I want to be.
No, I didn't. I think what I've always done now, I've always liked to push myself on. I'm very inquisitive when it comes to work. So actually I did my postgraduate qualifications in marketing, so in the Nottingham Business School, and graduated in social sciences. Then went to Nottingham Business School, did CIM qualifications while I was working, but I was fascinated by the science of marketing, not the art of it. Really, I was interested in the behavioral side of it, how to influence behavior, how to understand behavior, how to digest research and analysis to improve yourself, your team, the business, your products, whatever it might be. So that bit was really fascinating. So relatively quickly, I wanted to, and if you think about the principles of strategic marketing, it's very it's very aligned to business strategy, and that side of it and the analytical side was the bit that really drove me on, less so about the artistic manifestation, creativity side of campaigns and things. So I was really interested in that aspect of business. So when I went into marketing, then I was already in marketing, but then I was constantly thinking, what more could I do? What more could I influence? And maybe people picked up that in the way I interacted at work. So my role expanded into a broader commercial role where I had sales teams, product teams, marketing teams all together. Gradually expanded. So look at my CV as sort of, and maybe that wasn't a conscious thing, but that's how it happened. Everywhere I was, my role was getting bigger and bigger and broader and broader. And so I went from sort of commercial director and joined. I then went and joined EMIS as managing director for a new division, and that was my first sort of leadership role in that sense, running a division. And that, that was a step into the unknown. I didn't know whether I was going to be able. I was stepping out of a single domain then, really, being commercial director. So gradually knowing what you know. But then it went really broad with managing director, where you were responsible for everything to do with that division in the group. And then I went into doing broader roles, which eventually ended up at CEO. So I think I've just, to answer your question, I didn't necessarily have the CEO input, because it probably would have freaked me out at the start and gone, that's not me. And that's, I couldn't do that. But just the next step up. And my steps have been broader. I haven't sort of really gone, marketing director, bigger company marketing director, really big company. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to go broader, and then and expand my role that way, because it sort of fed my intrigue and interest in broader business.
It's interesting, that, isn't it? Because I think I've not had this exact conversation with many, to be fair, but there is no one set route to anything, is there? But would you, your particular route of taking that marketing, like you say, the more of the kind of the science of marketing and all that world brings with it, would you almost advocate your route to others as people who kind of wanted to follow in your footsteps? Does it give you something where you are now that you wouldn't necessarily have got, do you think?
In some senses, I don't think it really matters what discipline you come from, whether you come from a finance background, a marketing background, legal background, technology background, sales background. What professional training and qualifications do, they do take you back to like the sort of the theory and practice. And I think it's about having the right mindset. You can have a brilliant technologist who can't make the generalist change, and you want them to stay in the super, the extreme technologist lane, actually. But you'll have another technologist who does have the right characteristics to become a CEO or an MD or even a CTO. Takes, your best developer doesn't necessarily make your best CTO. It's the same in all of the disciplines, isn't it? So I don't think the discipline to me is less important, because this, and you'll probably be interested in this, but when you build strong teams up, you can see really strong CFOs, for example, have got brilliant strategic brains. They've just got financial training, and they will have done their CMA or the ACCA, whatever, and there will have been strategy components of that. Really strong CTOs or technical directors, we've got a strategic brain because they understand the strategic development process, how they're engaging users, how they're understanding user behavior to develop technology. That's very similar to general business, really. And so the discipline is less important. The mindset is more important, because you can step out of your role then. To answer your question, I think what would I say? I think it doesn't matter what discipline you come from if you've got the right mindset. I think my gut feeling is that some elements of professional training does add to, helps you to get into that mindset. So that might be a bit of an advantage, whether that's doing CIPD, CIMA, CIM, technology equivalents. I think they do. I mean, what is the technology equivalent to that, Neil? What is it? What would be the equivalent of that kind of professional qualification? Is there a route to that?
I think it depends on what route you want to take. So if you want to stay in the kind of the software industry, you'd go after you kind of your engineering certs. These days, you want to, everyone wants the cloud badges on the CVs. Everyone wants like the AWS
Yeah.
certification to prove that they've got that kind of architectural level, that bigger picture view, I guess,
Yeah.
is where you need to be.
That's
It's
teaching
less
you the
ingrained.
discipline, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's less. I'll say structured. There is a good library and a good chunk of resource to go after, but it's less defined, like you say, as like a finance route or even a project management route. It's fairly well laid out. The boxes to tick. But I think from technology, there's more on that kind of innovation and thinking outside the box, I guess. So it's a little less structured, perhaps. What would you say is kind of your mix then? Because everyone's personality, like you say, everyone brings their own thing to the game. So what's your kind of mix? Disruptor is like the trendy word. Everyone wants to be a disruptor. But again, there's only so many roles that can do that. Otherwise, it'd just be chaos. So, innovator, disruptor, strategic, realist, visionary. If you were to say, the Matt Murphy head mix is, what does it look like?
I think I'm quite strong at strategy and seeing how and trying to understand how things will play out. So I suppose that would make me strategic, maybe visionary, because I do like to see where things go or where things might flow. So I wouldn't. I'm not like a classic entrepreneur. I'm not that person. So what I've enjoyed in my career is growing things, but I'm not the one who starts it on day one. Do you know what I mean? That's I wouldn't say I'm a startup person because I probably couldn't deal with the high volume of avenues that you can often need to start down. So I'm better with taking things and making them work and seeing how they play out and how that might come together and how this might evolve over time. So yeah, I'd say strategic and visionary, if that's the right adjective, but then realist in it. I know it needs to be grounded in, the manifestation's got to be in results, both in terms of people and in terms of business and in terms of customers, however you define success, and often they are linked, So if you do things the right way, you get the right results across the board, I think.
So you just said it there. How do you define success? Let's say, I don't know, you new to Redmore, you're inheriting all that's already achieved and established so far. How do you look at walking in as chief exec and going, success for me will look like?
So first thing you got to do is be quiet and listen, which is hard to do because sometimes you feel the need. You've got to have answers, and early and fast, and that's not. It's not me anyway. It's not my way. So to try and understand, how did we get here? What's got us here? What's good about getting us here? What might we do differently moving on? Understand from a whole host of stakeholders the context, and because you'll find out, what we haven't done, what we wish we'd done, what really worked, what seems to have stopped working, what's changed. So really understanding that before you start to pull together your view. And I've worked with inherited teams, a blended inherited and recruited teams, and I like it that way, actually, rather than all one way or all the other way. I think a good combination just freshens things up, but also doesn't lose the fabric of the business that's got you to where you are, because that's what you got to build on. So having the respect of what's got us to where we are before I was involved, listening, and then creating some clarity to move forward. So I do like to work on structure, decision making, and empowerment quite quickly to sort of say, okay, how are we going to make things work? Who needs to work with who to make things work? Who decides? So I think there's a trap that I have seen leaders fall into in the past, and I constantly try not to fall into, is that you've got to have the answers, and you need to almost try to be you're the last resort for the answer as a mindset, because usually the answer is somewhere within the business and it's closer to the problem. And you're usually, apart from things like board issues or your senior team, you're furthest away from the problem than pretty much everybody else, usually. So you don't have to have an answer, and you're just good at getting the right answers out of everybody. And you can help if there's debate or you can't reach an answer. But I don't like the idea of the CEO sitting on a chair and everyone on a conveyor belt going past, go and make a decision about this or this. I don't like to work that way, and I just don't think people like to be led that way.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because I know what you mean around, there possibly is that expectation, when fundamentally when you answer to no one, you kind of got to have the answers for everyone. And part of what you've explained so far is you work with your teams, you coach, you mentor your teams. You're a teacher effectively, in as much as I'm not going to give you the answer, I'm going to tease it out of you. And that is part of the art of really good, strong leadership in my experience.
Yeah, and you have got to do. And there are times when you do need to have you do need to step in if you see that something is unclear, or we're not getting to a way of moving forwards or something. That's when you've got to, you're not you're not only a teacher. You got to be able to say, well, look, it looks like we're not getting anywhere with this, or we're not in agreement on something. So how are we going to move forwards? And you might then step in and go, this is what I want you to do. But I don't think your starting point is that.
No, I think that's fair. Would you say you're your harshest critic, or is that the board?
No, me, because definitely, I think it helps to be a little bit paranoid. It does, because then it keeps you on your toes. If you just have really low self-awareness, I don't know. You got to be able to. There's a couple of cliches. You got to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and know that you're doing the right thing, and you've got to know that you're doing the right thing when no one's watching you. So that's why I think you're in a monologue, and your own conscience and things are really important, because then that's the thing that helps you, I think, to say to yourself, come on, that wasn't the right thing to do, or you need to do that better or faster or whatever it might be.